Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Medically Assisted CBD with Charlie Piamarini. We have a very special guest today, coming to us all the way from Kentucky. She has a very, very interesting story, kind of like everyone in the hemp and CBD industry who are making legitimate products and making legitimate uh, claims. She is coming to us from not just a product standpoint, but also from a growing standpoint. So, without further ado, I will let you introduce yourself and tell us all about your story because your story is just really, really cool.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. I
Mhm.
appreciate this. I'm Adriane Polyniak, and I am one of the owners of Kentucky Cannabis Company and Bluegrass Hemp Oil. We got into the CBD industry because of a medical need inside our family. So in 2009, our youngest son, Colton, was diagnosed with idiopathic generalized epilepsy. And so at age 3, he went from 0 seizures to hundreds, all different types. And we had no clue what was causing it. Just like every parent in that situation, we had to start on this pharmaceutical roulette where we literally just threw any pharmaceutical at him, layered pharmaceuticals, and it had a really negative effect on him as a child, physically, mentally, socially, to where we really just didn't think that that was the quality of life that we wanted for him. One of the pharmaceuticals got him within hours of organ failure.
Oh,
We
wow.
just happened to be at the hospital at the right time where they checked his liver levels. And it was a very, very scary time.
Yeah.
Um, we finally got him regulated on a pharmaceutical. So his seizures were kept at bay, but he couldn't regulate his body temperature. His anger and rage was just through the roof. He stopped smiling. Um, it was just, like I said, it was something that we just didn't want to see for him. So we started looking for alternative methods to be able to treat his epilepsy. We looked at the ketogenic diet, we looked at anything and everything. And that's when we came across marijuana that doesn't get you high, right? That's what they
Right.
were calling it back in the day.
Right.
And so it was when we realized that it was the CBD component of the cannabis plant that was really having the positive effects on children with epilepsy and his condition. And we didn't want to uproot our family and move to a medically where cannabis, medical was legal.
Right.
And so we started advocating within the state and really made some good changes. From there, I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
From there, we started advocating for hemp's legalization.
Okay.
And because of that advocacy, we were awarded one of the original 6 pilot programs in the state of Kentucky. And so in 2013, Kentucky had actually set the standard. We had already had a pilot program established. So when the federal Farm Bill of 2014 came, we hit the ground running. At that point in time, people weren't talking CBD. Everybody was looking at hemp from a seed and fiber standpoint, which is fantastic in its own right.
Okay.
Um, and they thought we were crazy. I mean, we had legislators, we had other Kentucky hemp farmers say that we were crazy. They thought that we were muddying the waters and adding confusion to the hemp advocacy portion of it. And all we said was, give us a chance. Just give us a chance. And now, well, now you see what the market is today. It's
Right.
just, yeah, that's what everybody wants to do.
Right. Right. It's what everyone wants to do. But so yeah, you've been growing since what, 2014?
2014.
And so you have a grow, and then so you're vertically integrated, right? So you go seed to shelf. So you have and then you also have your CBD company, which is called Blue Hemp, what is that?
Bluegrass hemp oil.
Bluegrass Hemp Oil.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about that because I'm assuming, did you start with in your mind of doing just a grow, or did you really always want to do grow plus a finished product, or did you just want a finished product, or kind of walk me through how that all kind of came about?
Well, ultimately, we wanted to be an integral part in creating a really high quality, repeatable serving size CBD product. Again, we got into this because we were looking to create a product for our son. At that time, it was the Wild West. It's still kind of the
Right.
Wild West now. But so we just wanted to make an impact and wanted to be able to have some part in making quality product. The problem is that at that point in time, there was, and still now, there was a lot of bad actors
Right.
in the market. And there was a lot of people that would make promises about creating a quality CBD product. But in our conversations with them, when we were looking to establish this business, they could never tell us how they were going to do it. It was like, we're going to create the best product ever. Okay, fantastic. I'm on board with you. But how are you going to do it? And then that's when it would fall short.
Right.
So we decided to be vertically integrated to cultivate and to produce, because there just wasn't anybody that was creating a product that was up to our standard that we felt comfortable to give our child. And it was the best way for us to control what was going into him and ensure that it was legit.
Yeah, that's the problem that I think most people in the industry struggle with. Even if you do have the vertical integration, it's very tough. I think a lot of people don't realize of how tough it is just to have the hemp grow part is its own business, but then you're always worried about sampling and then sending it into the lab to see where your THC levels are. How soon are you going to cultivate? If you cultivate too soon, you're going to miss out on all the other manner cannabinoid. I mean, it's a whole process. And at any point, the federal government could come in, test one of your crops that is 30 yards up from one of your other crops, which, and we all know the hemp plant is very diverse. So any
Mhm.
elevation change, the water runoff, anything like that, one plant may be hot and have higher levels of THC than the rest of your crop, and they'll deem that as you're done. You got to burn
Right.
that.
The entire field is then done, and it varies. We're doing some tests here and actually are working on writing a white paper to prove to our legislators to say, even choosing from which part of the plant you're choosing, whether it's the top section, which is the juiciest, and that's absolutely where they want to pull from, or
Right.
whether they pull from the bottom, but it's still the same plant.
Right.
So, and then to your point, judging the whole field based on that one plant,
Right.
it's really harmful for the farming industry.
Oh God, I can't, I hats off to you for actually even stepping into that arena to do just a vertical integration. There's enough issues that anyone that owns a CBD company understands with just having a product line of getting bank accounts, getting credit card processing, labels, all these type of things. Where do you sell? How do you advertise? And so doing the grow and the vertical integration side just adds a whole nother wrench into this issue. And hats off, because that's awesome that you're doing this correctly. Are you guys organic?
Yes, so not certified organic. We're working on that certification, but we do everything organically. We have an
Okay.
integrated pest management program, so we use good bugs for the bad bugs.
Right.
So yeah, we definitely monitor our soil and our water. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking.
He's all right.
Apologize for that.
How many acres do you guys grow?
So we have two farm locations, but overall we're looking at about 20 acres overall, and
Okay.
that supports the whole business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that supports the whole business, online, retail, wholesale.
Okay.
And that's not meant to say that our business is small by any means.
Yeah.
We just cultivate the right cultivars that
Right.
actually produce a really large bloom where we're actually able to pull quite a bit of resin from it,
Uh-huh.
and then taking that resin and producing, across the board.
What do you guys do with your biomass? Like with all like
So
the
that actually, we turn it back into the field stocks and well, so
perfect. Yep.
stocks and stem, we're working on some other potential outlets for those. Nothing that I really want to talk about yet, but we're
Yeah.
very excited about it. But currently, we turn it back into the field. We have offered it several times to local people who say they want to get in the hemp industry and say, "Hey, honestly, come help us clean up our farm,
Right.
come pick up our stocks and stems and all of that." Um, but for the most part, as much as some people say that they want to do it, we haven't had anybody take us up on the offer. Free of charge, we've offered it. Just come and get it.
Man, it's so crazy because the expo I was at last weekend in Austin, Lucky Leaf, they had two companies. One of them was making wood from hemp. He had hemp wood, frames and furniture, and then there's a whole other company doing hemp concrete demos, and building, found everything
Mhm.
from not foundations, but everything from walls to insulation to, I mean, they're making villages in, Puerto Rico and some of these other impoverished areas out of hemp. And
Right.
how different of a plant would you have to grow to get that kind of result? Is that more focused just on, the hemp and the stalks, or are you able to do both, or is it just you have to pick one and go?
We're of the mindset you have to pick one and go.
Okay.
I mean, when you're cultivating for bloom, you really want all of the nutrients focused on the plant to go into produce
Right.
mass cannabinoid production and terpene production. So a lot of people will try to use all parts of the plant, but if you look at our stocks, they're just heftier. There's no way I'm going to get fiber out of them. Now, quite possibly, could someone then take it, chop it up, make animal bedding out of it
Right.
or different things? Yeah, I would see that that would be a good option. But when it comes to fiber or maybe even consumption, I wouldn't use the stocks for that personally.
No. What about feeding like farm animals? I've heard of some of that use.
Yeah, so there are some companies that I know of that are currently doing that. That's again heavily regulated,
Yeah.
and there's the industry. The USDA is not quite sure yet what they want to do with regard to animal feed.
Okay.
And I don't think that there's some states that are allowing it, but I don't necessarily know what the USDA is currently saying about it.
Yeah. Does the USDA ever kind of come into your area? Do you ever talk with them, or are they kind of laissez-faire?
So we've invited local, everybody, whether it's police, sheriff's department, FDA, anybody, we invite them and let them tour because I think that's the best way
Of
for
course.
to show the legitimacy of the industry. Um, Knock on wood, we haven't been. We do everything on the up and up and probably even above board of what's even required. I think we look at other states and even other countries and look at the regulations that they have the strictest regulation, and that's what we set our guidelines to.
That's
Because
awesome.
Kentucky, we're just hemp legal at this point,
Right.
and eventually it's going to get there. I think every state will slowly
It's going to
bring
happen.
cannabis in to
Right.
some way, shape, or form. So we feel like if we just go by the strictest rules and regulations, we should all have all of our T's
Smart.
crossed and our T's.
Do
Yeah.
you ever have contact with like Rand Paul?
Yeah, as a
Okay.
matter of fact, we see him at quite a lot. We advocate a lot with the local and our federal legislators and congressmen and senators. Um, we've had several of his representatives tour our facilities.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's very aware of our products and our plate.
That's 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 awesome that there's an advocate like him who is a physician and a senator, that advocates for something like this. I think he floated a bill to try and get it to 1% THC. Yeah.
He did. Yeah, absolutely. And we really appreciate that leadership. And it's something that we've been pushing for since 2014 here in the state of Kentucky. Um, I feel like we're at least getting more recognition. A lot of concern for whatever reason in the state is, well, if you give them 1%, they're eventually going to want 3 or 5. Well, yeah, sure. Why not?
Why
Right.
not? Right.
I mean, it's not intoxicating, it's hemp. I understand where they're coming from, but that going to 0.4% does not make it marijuana. It
No.
doesn't, that's not the chemical change within the plant that's needed. I mean, you have to have a complete reversal of CBD to THC for that point.
Right.
Um, but we're pushing for it. I think it's going to happen at the state levels before it happens at the federal level, just like most things, I think.
I mean, that's the only way this is going to happen. But I think you and I talked the other day a little bit about how far this industry has come. Right, we went from hemp being finally legalized. Now, I'm in the state of Arizona, so it's been medically legal since the 90s, and now we are full rec as of this year. But during the pandemic, marijuana dispensaries were considered, as part as staying open. They were people lines around the block here in Arizona,
Mhm.
people trying to get into the dispensaries, which who would have thought we would have seen 5 years ago that cannabis would have had played such a big role into a pandemic or just in society. And I think people are starting to realize that it's not as bad as people are making it out to be, especially not hemp. There's never been a marijuana, or especially not a hemp, overdose ever from a single, just someone using just singularly hemp or marijuana. There's no receptors on the brainstem to stop your breathing, but I think the future is bright for hemp, for cannabis, for everything in general. Um, what I kind of want to ask your opinion on, where do you think the future of hemp is going? Like, is it going to be 1%? Is everyone going to are there going to be all these grows that are going to happen? Where are all the CBD companies going to go? And, how do you see this field shaking out all the way from farmers to the CBD products?
I think in order to see the industry really blow up the way that they expect it to be, I think we have to go 1%. Because farmers, at least here in Kentucky, they've realized that it's a significant investment to change what you're cultivating, right? It's a
Right.
huge risk to, quite possibly move from soy or corn into hemp and then have no guarantee on the back end that your crop is not going to be just destroyed. You
Right.
put your blood, sweat, tears, invested all of this money into cultivating it. So I think the only way that farmers are going to feel comfortable in really switching and allowing the supply to really grow is to increase that to that 1%. Um,
Makes
and I
sense.
think that's the only way that we're going to get quality medicinal varieties out of the hemp. Because when you allow that increase in that THC, you allow that increase in the other minor cannabinoids as
True.
well. So
Because it can
I
grow
don't think
longer. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think we've seen the potential of, or all the potential of what hemp actually can do from a therapeutic standpoint
Interesting.
until we can actually increase that and really be able to do the science and the research on the individual cannabinoids. There's benefits to all, but full spectrum is the way to go. And the more cannabinoids that you can get in the plant and into the product, the better it's going to be for the end consumer.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think about the CBD industry, like the end user product? Where do you see that going in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'd love for it to be solely focused, or not necessarily solely, but mostly focused on full spectrum science. I think, studies show that that's the best way to see results. And I think that as we can do more research on individual cannabinoids, we can quite possibly then cultivate plants that are maybe higher in one cannabinoid versus the other, but still keeping the full beauty of the plant together.
Okay.
So, and then seeing what it does from an end consumer use. Maybe there's a where we increase the amount of a certain cannabinoid so that it gives that certain effect,
Right.
increasing the amount of myrcene or in the product or the plant itself, so that we can say, okay, this is a sleep product. I don't
Right.
have to add melatonin to it because
Right.
my myrcene is going to give us what it needs. That's where I hope it goes.
Okay.
Honestly, I have a sad feeling that I think everything is going to be focused on novelty still for a little bit, focused on single cannabinoid, high milligram isolate until we
I
can
could see
kind
that.
of
Yeah.
uh, get some more studies and some more support from the legislators with regards to products that are put on the market.
Yeah. When you go to these expos and you just see everyone's kind of, trying to figure out what's the next cannabinoid to ride the wave, and I don't know. I think, like you said, you and I have talked, and I think a full spectrum product is best. There are some really cool properties of some of the other minor cannabinoids that can be played up in certain, tinctures for, certain ailments. Obviously, no medical claims, but I think the field, like you said, if you're allowed to do a 1%, that plant's able to grow longer, create more terpenes, more flavonoids, other minor cannabinoids, and really kind of bloom into its full potential, that you would really get a lot of benefit from. Um, and with that, I kind of want to know what do you feel like? What's your take on the terpenes?
Oh yeah, I love them. I think they're great. I know that we've gone to a lot of expos with regards to maybe cannabis science and really focusing on the back end part of it.
Okay.
And so terpenes, if they're not naturally found, you can isolate the terpene, but if you take too much of that terpene, it cannot be good for you as well, right?
Right.
So it can be what they say, the quote unquote the dose makes the poison, right?
Right.
So a large amount of certain terpenes can actually be bad on the body, but if it is within the plant and it's naturally occurring, again, you can't improve upon nature. I think that they're very beneficial in the full spectrum product. We definitely keep it in our product with our extraction method, and we don't add any isolated terpenes. I know some people do. It's not something that we do,
Okay.
but a lot of the products out on the market today are just either isolated or they're manufactured or extracted in a way that damages the terpenes on the way out. And so I would love to see more companies focusing on extraction methods that are going to be gentle on those terpenes so that people actually, when they take the product, they get the beauty of the plant
Right.
in its entirety. And that's going to come through in flavor and in smell as well. Right. So you
I
can
mean,
actually, you taste it. And so with our product, we tell people, they're like, does it taste bad? I'm like, no, it's a really beautiful light gold oil, but it tastes the way the plant smells. And that's a good thing.
right. That's tough sometimes for the consumers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what people don't realize is the strains of cannabis or hemp are determined through the terpene profiles, not through CBD or THC. So
Right.
terpenes are gaining a lot of attention for a good reason, and I'm a big fan of certain terpenes. People are using them in essential oils, diffusing them, and rubbing them on your neck if you're stressed. I think they're great. What do you see for the future? What are some of the hurdles that you're witnessing in your business to go from where you are right now to go to where you want to be? Forget about like the legislation stuff, the 1%, moving everything to 1%, but what are some of the hurdles within your business that you're experiencing?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to online social media,
Right.
you know, Google's not very friendly, Facebook's not
Nope.
friendly, Instagram's not friendly. I can't even attach my website to my Pinterest page. I mean, it's a legal product and it's been legal since 2014. But to still be treated as we're doing something nefarious is a huge hurdle in order for us to get through.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that I can't even imagine when the time comes when Google just says, okay, fine, you can do digital advertising the right way. I
Oh,
know some companies are doing it out there, but it is through a loophole and covering their eyes while they're doing it.
right.
Um, it'll have a complete change on the industry, I think.
Yeah. Oh God, that's the toughest part. I think if they pass the Safe Banking Act,
Mhm,
I think that'll really, because the Facebook, Instagram, Google, they're worried about them getting in trouble,
mhm.
losing their funding. So it's just such a. We went from black market to in the basement to like mainstream in the middle of CVS in gas stations having conferences, pretty quickly. And so I think the other dinosaurs of companies, Google, Facebook, YouTube, all these things are really trying to play catch up. Um, and they're just being super conservative on, risk taking. And I
Mhm.
mean, and I think it's because in the beginning when this became legal through the hemp bill, there was just some really bad actors that just put a black mark on our industry. That Jam article, I think it was from like 2017, showing about how many of these products have super high levels of THC. How many of them didn't even have CBD in it? So it's the pay. I think the consumers are starting to demand better products, better education. They're looking at, I always lecture people on look at the website, look at where you're buying the product from. The people that are they behind the product? Is your face is on your website, your story is there, or is it just some company looking to make a bunch of money and it's
Right.
got nobody's name, nobody's email? Who do you contact? Who's standing behind this product? And so I think consumers are getting more aware of this.
Mhm.
You don't buy your medicine from Circle K or from gas stations. So people are kind of really seeking out better products. But it is hard to be the product that gets in front of the consumers because advertising is like basically non-existent for companies like the big guys like that are in our field that are publicly traded have
Right.
endless amounts of money, and they're advertising on Facebook. I see it, I'm like, oh man, they're probably paying Facebook so much that Facebook's like, all right, I'll look the other way.
Mhm.
So you and I obviously don't have that kind of money. So,
Right.
having to be smart about, I sponsor a lot of BMX athletes and an ultimate fighting guy. And, so I really just trying that way. And that's just trying to grow it organically. It's a low and slow game, but it works. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. And I think creating a quality product and just word of mouth. I think that everybody before they buy something asks their friends, hey, have you heard of this? And it could be whether it's shampoo or face cream or
right,
even dog food.
right.
So I think as long as you continue to create a really high quality product, word gets out at that point.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
that's very true. Um, well, I really appreciate you coming on our show, talking to me about your story, which is, pretty a phenomenal story of how you were brought in, kind of similar to a lot of other parents that are brought into this field. Um, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, just to kind of close the loop on my son, he is seizure free and pharma free now,
Awesome.
and he has been since 2014. He'll be 16 actually next week,
Oh, wow.
and
Happy
so
birthday.
he's definitely living a life that he was not expected to
Yeah.
live. And
Right.
so we're blessed to have the opportunity to be able to create this product that ultimately we create for him, because he still is our first customer, and what we call patient zero, I guess you could say.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
Well,
he's doing really well, but thank you.
that's an amazing story. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you at some of the expos, and, we'll keep in touch and keep just trying to push this industry in the right direction. People like you and I have to keep really fighting for it, because there's some bad people out there that just want to make money. So, um,
Absolutely. Keep
with
up the good
that,
work.
thank you. And with that, I appreciate you coming on, and we will talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks.